Hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you can be prepared to win the battle for business. And we do it here and only here on the Profit Express. So, thanks for being on board today. Thanks for sharing some of your time with me. And I got one question for you today. What if you had a boring, monotone, dull-sounding voice, and you didn't know it? Well, it's costing you big. It's costing you in the terms of lost sales, blown promotions, and interviews that go awry. I mean, thinking to yourself, oh man, Tim, what am I supposed to do? The voice I have is the voice I have. I mean, I'm not James Earl Jones. Don't panic. I got great news. That's why you're listening to the Profit Express. Today's expert, Sammi Sadicario, is the founder of The Voice Experts. And she believes wholeheartedly, it's a passion of hers. She knows and can teach you what you need to know to create the kind of voice that exudes confidence, closes deals, and opens doors. And that is available to all of us. And that is some great news. That's why I'm very excited to have her on. Sammi Sadicario, the voice expert. Welcome aboard the Profit Express. How are you today?
Hey, Tim, thanks so much for having me. We are here. We have made it. Goody, goody gumdrops, as I like to say when, the things hit the fan.
Yes. Yes. And that's a behind the scenes reference for some technology snafus we've been dealing with. But Sammi, being a professional, actually helped talk me off the ledge. So thank you very much to that.
You're so welcome, Tim. It's my pride and joy.
Absolutely. Now, on the Profit Express, I've interviewed countless small business owners. And before we jump into the mechanics, the theory, and the strategies behind creating a great voice, a voice that exudes confidence, closes deals, opens doors. I stole that from your website. I love it. Great entrepreneurs, great business owners start with great stories. I want to start with your story and how you got to where you are today.
Great question, and it's a fun story. When I was 6 years old, Tim, my parents put me into soccer. And I was on that soccer field putting on shows. So my soccer coach said to my parents, put that kid in theater. And in theater, I stayed for the next 20 years. So I dedicated my entire life to musical theater. Every day after school, I was doing shows. I've done hundreds and hundreds of shows at this point. I keep saying at some point I'm going to sit down and tally up how many stages I've actually been on, because it must be over 1,000. I went to school for musical theater. I went to Penn State. I have a BFA with a minor in religious studies. And with that, I studied various performances and rituals all over the world in various religions. Fast forward, worked in a few different industries in the performance and film industry. And then I became a cruise director and a Barbra Streisand impersonator. A whole other way of using my voice, something where I practiced being somebody else, somebody very well known. And her politics aside, I had a really good time being her on stage.
Wait, I have to ask, can you give us a little Barbara?
Sure. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world.
Oh, wow. Bravo. Barbara's a bonus. Awesome.
Barbara's a bonus.
So it was your soccer coach that you have to thank for all this.
Sure. I was 6 years old. I don't know how long I was actually coached for, but
right. Awesome story. Now, here's a question for you. people are born with a monotone voice or a bubbly voice right out of the gate. Is that true?
Nature or nurture? Sounds like you're asking.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny. I actually stopped the story just because you asked for an impression before that. 2020 hit,
Oh, okay.
and I opened a coaching
Yeah, go
business.
back there. I'm sorry. Yes, I ruined the best part of the story. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was a Barbara Streisand impersonator, and while I was on the cruise, while I was working on the cruise, I completely changed my lifestyle, completely changed my health, and went, "Oh my gosh, I want to help other people with their health." So I started in the coaching industry as a health coach, and over time, really found my niche, which is the
Mhm.
voice, and realized I had this huge passion and zone of genius that only comes from I'm 30, so 24 years of experience, and I'm just
Mhm.
getting started. Really exciting. Now, the question you had asked and you had seen on my social media profile I had already started the coaching business, but then 2020 hit and I
Mhm.
chose what I felt was my health decision and lost my career in musical theater. I had chosen to not get the vaccine. I knew that
Mhm.
that was something I was not going to get. And I stood for medical freedom and I lost my entire community. I lost my musical theater career and I left all of that behind because I wanted to stay true to myself and my voice. And I decided I was going to continue to live as authentically as possible with as much intention as possible and move through the world in that way. And it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. I had so much grief around that and still do sometimes. And I know that the more I lean into my truth, the happier I am and the
Mhm.
better my life becomes. And so that's how I got here today.
I have to give you a lot of credit. I own my own business, so I didn't have to go by any vaccination guidelines or whatever. I know a lot of people who did. Um, Hard decision, and to be forced into it, that's brave. That's courageous. So I respect the hell out of that. Obviously, you sacrificed a lot. Wow.
Well, what's cool, Tim, is that I'm making my own performance career. This is my art form. Teaching,
Right.
coaching, training, facilitating is an art form. I knowing exactly the right questions to ask somebody or exactly the right exercise to guide somebody to make an actual transformation is an art form. Keynote speaking I'm still performing. Hey, I sung for you at the beginning of this. And don't get me wrong, I still have a band. I have my band. I have people I write music with and I'm
Right.
still in that world as well. But what we're talking about today, helping leaders use the full range of their voice so that they can command authority and open doors, that is my bread and butter because
Mm.
there's something about that I know is going to have a ripple effect for generations.
Well, listen, the Profit Express doing what I do, sales, coaching, consulting, and training, I know how powerful voice is, how powerful communication is. And I know what you're going to be sharing today can be one more tool in the toolbox, as we try to win that battle for business here on the show. Thank you for sharing that, Bai. Great story, an inspiring story. Thank you very, very much. Now, what I'd like to talk about is kind of go back to that question. We're born with the voice. Some of us sound like James Earl Jones, some of us don't. But then you kind of added, is it nature or nurture? So you sound a certain way, but are we locked into that?
Yes and no. Yes, in that your voice is an instrument and your body acts as the resonator. So unless you're changing your body in one way, shape, or form, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot imagine that you will be able to change certain aspects of your voice. However, speaking is a behavior that you learned
Mm-hmm.
from our communities, learned from our music. We are tuned by our music. We are tuned by frequencies around us as an instrument. And so what we're taking in is going to influence the instrument of your voice in your body and what you're putting out. So can you change certain aspects of your voice? No. Can you change other aspects of your behavior of speaking? Yes. So you can change your pitch. You can change your tone. You can change the way you shape your mouth. You can change the way you fluctuate your voice. You can change the strength of your voice. but you can't change the cavity of your body where your voice is resonating from. That is going to create a lot of the color. So I'm not going to be able to have a voice like Billie Eilish, who
Mm-hmm.
sings up here and is really light. I have this huge voice that really doesn't do the same thing as that like fluttery sound.
Right.
And Billie Eilish isn't gonna be able to do the huge, more like Amy Winehouse sounds that I have, because our voices are just different in that way. However, we can use certain exercises and certain colors and certain shapes and certain massage techniques in order to create more space to have more options.
So, all right. So from hearing you, the voice is the voice, but it's our behavior around it that can improve it, impact it.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Now, what impact does our voice have when people hear us?
That's a great question. Well, there's a very common study that goes around in communication experts, the 7-38-55 rule. This
Mm-hmm.
suggests that 7% of communication is conveyed through words, 38 is conveyed through tone of voice, and then 55% through body language. So 38% of communication is through that tone. The tone suggests the emotion, the confidence level, the capability, your empathy is all shown through the tone. I was
Mm-hmm.
even listening to this today. I found on the Cody Sanchez's podcast, and so I was like, "Oh, I need to go look that up." TikTok showed me a great video. I was so excited about this. In 2002, a study showed that researchers recorded 400 primary care physicians, their consultations, and examined how their tone of voice correlated to their malpractice claims. Physicians who had never been sued
Really?
for malpractice spoke with warmer, more empathetic tones, while those who have been sued at least twice were likely to have a more dominant and condescending or rushed tone.
Really?
Fascinating. I was mind blown. I had to look it up. I have this note in front of me because it's a new study that I just found out about today. But I was like, oh, this is cool.
I know the 738-55 that you talk about. I think it was like a UCLA study. So they've equated tone of voice, empathy to not getting sued versus being condescending or domineering to being sued for doctors.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Wow.
Fascinating. It
Talk
makes
about a
sense to
great
me.
marketing. Sorry to interrupt. Talk about a great marketing tool for you. Think about that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I already do edit it on TikTok, and that's going on out tonight. I'm adding it into more of my marketing. I mean, it's fascinating because how many people actually think about their voice? I mean, some salespeople do, but you have to be introduced to tonality first before you even think about it. Most people just go, "Oh, I hate my voice," but have no idea what it is that they hate about it. They don't know how to break it down into step by steps, into specific almost subjects of how you can describe your colors. And I often say that the first step of transformation is awareness. So before we
Hmm.
can get to transforming anything, let's be aware of where we are today.
All right. So throw it on the host. What does my voice sound like?
That's great. I mean, well, you're clearly a New Yorker. We'll start there, right? So what does our voice tell about us? Where we're from, possibly our education level, often our emotional intelligence. Where else it tells us our mood, our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so our voice tells so much about us. What was funny is that your voice when you were talking before
Yeah.
you started, before we hit record, was higher pitched and lighter than when you started. You started speaking, all of a sudden your voice like dropped at least 3 notes and it became more raspy, like you were putting on a character, and I was like, "Oh, what's gonna happen?" I was like, "What character is gonna come out?"
Really?
Mhm.
I, well, I like to say I knew I was doing this. I didn't know. Wow.
And
Wait.
that's
And
okay.
I thought Because in my business, Healy Success Solutions, sales consulting, training, and coaching, I've done a lot of, public speaking, podiums, et cetera. I thought I did a good job about not sounding New York. I sound New York.
Well, it's very subtle. My whole family's from New York. My boyfriend's from New York. I lived in New York. So New York
Okay.
is in the blood. I spent many years getting rid of that accent in school because I needed to sound like everybody. And I also worked for a dialect coach to the stars for a little bit. And that's also
Yeah.
part of how I got into coaching and learned a lot about how to sound mid-Atlantic American and not New York.
Is that mid-Atlantic American? Is that the most acceptable, best sounding kind of voice?
That's what they could, it's funny. I said it and I actually haven't called it that in years, but that was what my boss called it. Like the mid-Atlantic American is that almost you can't place where that person's from kind of sound. So you're finding most people have no idea necessarily where I'm from by the way that I speak. They just say, well, most people say, I love your voice. You have a radio voice. And I say, thank you. I'll sing for you whenever you want. One day you'll hear me on the radio. But most people have no idea where I'm from, which is South Florida in a town of a bunch of New Yorkers. But learning how to feel where the sound is shaped in your mouth and learning how to change those shapes is how you can begin to do different dialects, different accents, and even change your voice for the purposes of a sales call or business.
Okay, great segue. Somebody's going on a sales call. Somebody has an interview, which is my world, okay, as a sales trainer coach. And I also interview sales professionals on behalf of my clients. So, should somebody try to sound different in a sales call versus an interview?
When you say interview, do you mean job interview?
I'm sorry, yes. Job interview. Yes.
Yes, they're two totally different things. Absolutely. A job interview, you're going to want to show competence and excitement with your voice, right? That I'm excited to be here. I'm really interested in this job. I know I would do a great job with this. On a sales call, we want to do everything possible to not trigger buyer's resistance. We want to show that we're very similar to the person in front of us. So we want to mirror them actually. So if the person in front of me on a sales call has low energy, I'm going to meet them in that low energy. If they have high energy, I'm going to meet them in that high energy. I'm so excited to see you here. Thank you so much. But I know that if I'm too bubbly, that's going to push back some introverts. Right? Jeremy Miner is really great about talking about tonality in sales calls. Yeah. And that's where I first heard the term tonality and realized I went, oh, that's what I'm teaching. Okay, that's it. Thank you for giving me the messaging term, Jeremy Miner. Because I know it, right? This is my life's work. This is what I'm up at night thinking about and how to support the world with. But learning how to speak the language of your clients, that's just good marketing. And that's what helped me. My method is actually called musical tonality, which we'll talk about at the end of this, right? And Jeremy Miner talks about tonality, but he actually doesn't talk about what the tonality is. He talks about the emotion of the tonality. So he's talking about, oh, you want to be curious. Oh, well, let's show curiosity. But that's not tonality. That's an emotion or intention. The tonality is air and head voice. And we're softening.
Oh, wow.
And what's actually happening is your vocal folds are thinning out and have more air coming through them. Versus if I'm in this dominating place in my voice, my vocal folds are thick and moving slowly, which is the science.
Wow, this is some good stuff for the sales professionals listening today here on the Profit Express. Wow. All right, so tonality is not sounding empathetic or sounding curious. It's more the mechanics of how you're projecting. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes, that's how I describe it. I mean, I describe tonality as the way that your colors and shapes and pitch, it's all together. Pitch, pace,
Hmm.
cadence, all tonality. And just the way that people are currently talking about tonality, I kind of want to shift it into we can get more specific. What does inspiration sound like? What does curiosity sound like? What does empathy sound like? What does confidence sound like? And I've been able to break down those sounds and teach them to individuals and teams and audiences over and over again. And now I've have this almost this method that is science based that anybody can learn if you put in the reps and the discipline to do it. It's a behavior, right? Just like learning to work out, it's a new behavior, eating differently, it's a new behavior. You got to practice it in order to see change.
Your clients are business, sales, even I think I did some research. You also work with attorneys, right?
Yeah, I work with a lot of attorneys, law firms, sales professionals, and founders mostly.
Founders of companies, CEOs.
Yes, I teach downtown Austin, and so I have a lot of startup founders who come to my
Okay,
classes. So I have classes, I have individuals, and then I have teams that I work with, more
sure.
facilitation training, and now I'm stepping into keynote speaking. We're ready for it. We've done a
Hmm.
few. It's a it's here. It's like you can taste the next step, right? By the time this comes out, who knows?
Now we talk about boring and monotone. Uh,
Mhm.
I think attorneys. I'm sorry, I had the jab on attorneys. That
Yeah.
so there's attorneys, and I think that one of the keys of what they have to deal with is litigation. Is that specifically where you work with them?
Nope. I work with all
Re-
kinds of attorneys, actually. Litigation attorneys are most of the time going to already be pretty good at speaking. They're
Okay.
going to be pretty good at litigating. At that, it's acting, right? A lot of attorneys are actually former actors. Um, and I work with more it's more corporate attorneys or immigration attorneys or family attorneys that don't
Really?
necessarily get up in front of people a lot that aren't very good at it. They
Oh,
don't show confidence. They show a lot of anger. They're too assertive. They lose a lot of clients that way. They have a lot of clients who work with them, or they have a high employee turnover, or they piss off their paralegals because attorneys are rough. Because it's a really demanding job. My sister's an attorney. My parents recruit attorneys. So that's how attorneys became the low-hanging fruit that I started with. And then
right.
attorneys just started finding me first. So that's why I started there. And although litigators need this because a lot of litigators lose
Hmm.
their voice later in life, or they're so assertive in the courtroom that then they are in the office and they don't realize that they're signaling anger with their voice. Can I tell you a little bit of how I break this down, how to see recognize emotions and
Oh
different
yeah,
in the voice? Okay, cool. So
yeah.
often angry voices are have hard consonants. So if people ever tell you you sound angry, chances are you're just using really intense consonants. And that's it. If you soften your consonants a little bit, you'll sound less angry. Empathy and emotion is carried on the vowels. So if we want to show emotion, begin to elongate the vowels and we will seem more empathetic.
Wow, this is fascinating. No, all right. So this is all right. So I have to bring it back to me for a second. I'm sorry. I'm bringing my wife into this. So she says two things. And when you said, you come across as angry when you emphasize the consonants, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, yeah, nodding my head.
Okay. Okay. So my wife often says, if looks could kill, and I got the bald head and it's not a good look all the time. And we're talking about emotion. I often come across, especially in stores with waiters, waitresses, people behind the counters. I'm just like, I could. So how much of this is facial expressions versus, vowels and consonants?
Well, as we said, based off of that study, that 55% is shown through body language. So
Right.
body language is a whole topic on its own, which I absolutely go into with people. But if we're just talking about what's happening with the voice, vowels and consonants, as well as pitch, breath, and color, which I describe color similar to the elements, 5 elements: earth, air, water, fire, metal, and how to use those and how to find them. But if we're talking about body language, well, how often do people, or you, if we're going to talk about you, how often do you look in the mirror and look at your face and look at yourself and go, do I look angry? Oh man, I look angry. Chances are, and here's the thing, Tim, I don't hope I don't push any buttons here. Chances are you're going to look in the mirror and you go, oh, I look like my father. Oh, I get it now. Because that's usually what happens.
Oh man, my wife is going to find it hilarious. Oh, even my son says it. I'll be at a store. She's like, Dad, oh man, you were brutal. So, all right. So if your voice is empathetic, sweet, charming, but your face is not, how does somebody perceive that?
That you're lying.
Oh.
They will know that you're lying. You will be lying. But you'll notice if you go back and watch this, your face just softened when you went into the voice. Your voice is a full body experience. Your voice is a full body experience. Your voice affects every part of your body. It affects every cell in your body. Your voice is the ultimate medicine that you are missing. Our voices are meant to be the things that heal us in generational trauma. For thousands and thousands of years, we sang and danced around a campfire to heal our generational trauma through oral traditions. And now we sit around watching TV wondering, oh, why am I so upset and sad and angry? Well, duh, we're supposed to be singing and dancing. So our voice is the original medicine.
Well, I was not expecting this. This is fascinating. We're going deep here.
Yeah, I don't really think about other things.
Listen, what do I know? I'm a sales coach and some podcast guy. What the hell do I know? Jesus, I just bring energy. Jeez.
Well, with that, I keep pausing because I can't see you. Once I start talking, your video goes away, and I like to see your facial expressions as we do this. And with that, knowing that our voice is this medicine, knowing that our voice is a full body experience, how does our facial expression affect our voice and our voice affect our facial expression? It goes two ways, but it's exactly what just happened for you. So knowing, oh, I'm so angry. Okay, well, what if I bring my voice into a more calming way? I'm going to calm down my own nervous system, and that's going to calm down my face. That's going to calm down everybody else. Here's the key to authority. Mm-hmm. Own your breath, own the room. Own your breath, own the room. As soon as you lose your breath, you'll lose your voice, you'll lose your nervous system, you'll lose your mind, and you'll lose the room.
Because in our world, controlling the room is big. Can you give me an example of that? So you said, lose your breath, lose the room.
Yeah. How often are you on a sales call and you stop breathing? How often are you doing something difficult in life? How you do your taxes and you stop breathing? You do anything stressful, you stop breathing. You have a fight with your partner, you stop breathing. How often you're going through life and you stop breathing? If you want to do something really stressful and do it well, own your breath. And that's it. That's the key. Now, the next step on top of it, once you own your breath, then we can talk about how do you then stimulate your vagus nerve, which we talked about just before this call. Your vagus nerve is the longest nerve in your body, and your voice is in charge of it. Your voice is one of the mechanisms that it's literally called toning it. You tone that nervous system. I had this huge revelation about 6 months ago when I was looking at all of these, listening to how people were talking about things. People use the words like resonate, toning, tune in. And I went, these are all words of sounds.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. What is it? What is it about all of these sounds words? And I was like, oh, sound is the answer to everything. Frequency, everything is vibration, everything is energy, as we all know. And so, if everything is energy, everything is frequency, if we can use our voice, we can raise our vibration if we want to get like woo woo about it, but we can also get quantum physics about it, and we can improve our life, improve our health, improve our connection to ourselves, improve our connection to each other, regulate our emotions, and who knows? I won't say change the world because I've been instructed to not think that big. And I do believe that it's possible.
Wait, who told you not to think that big? Come on.
We can talk about that off air.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I want to change topic for a moment.
Go for it.
Women in business have had the challenge that if they sound confident and authoritative, they're often called bitchy, right?
Yeah. I love this.
Do women, and this is not meant to be a insult, but do women naturally sound less confident or less authoritative because of their voice?
Yes. Well, yes, full stop. Here's where Barbara McAfee's work gets to come in really strong. Shout out Barbara McAfee. She's one of my mentors. I love her work. And she talks about the voice, and one of the ways of describing the voice. I have many different ways of describing it because everyone's going to receive it and implement it differently. But I love this method for talking about this. We have earth. Earth is grounding. Earth is authoritative. It sets boundaries. We have air. Air is like customer service agents in the 50s and 60s. And air is where a lot of women were told to speak. Be meek, be demure, be up here. That's air. And when we use air, people are going to talk over us. They're going to think you're an airhead. Then we have water. Water is where emotion is. Water is for meditation teachers. Water is going to be what you use when you calm yourself down. Water is going to be what you use when you want to mediate conflict. And then we have fire. Fire is what you're going to use on stage. It's what you're going to use to influence and inspire your team. Fire is going to be what you use to pump things up. I'm all fire. I have to hold back my fire very often because I'm just like ready to go, all fire. And then we have metal. And metal's going to cut through the BS and straight to the point. And metal is where New Yorkers are. So that's why New Yorkers often sound more aggressive. It's actually because the way the sound is traveling out of your face. It's just more forward. So it's traveling more direct, like the tip of a spear. And when you think about it, when you think about New Yorkers, you got to talk over all these loud things. So of course you've got to be loud. Of course that dialect has created itself to be very, very direct in that way. And so women tend to live in their air voice. If they were taught that, if they're being spoken over, if they're not being taken seriously. Now, where they may have overcompensated is having more fire and air and fire and metal. And that is where they often sound angry or bitchy or bossy. So the key, and that I bring a lot of women towards, is finding that earth. How do we find this earth energy, this masculine energy? And that's something I'm very good at finding. And that's why I work with a lot of men. A lot of men like working with me. And I think it's because I'm able to have that authoritative voice while also keeping it warm and feminine with the water voice. This is code switching 101. This is knowing how to use your voice to influence the person in front of you. It's not just about changing your voice for good, but how can you use your voice to make a difference in the person in front of you and know that the way that you're speaking is going to influence their subconscious mind.
You're in a business situation and it's getting confrontational. Okay. Let's say a client is pissed. How do you use your voice to control the room, to control the conversation?
Hmm. If you are a man like yourself,
Hmm.
I would suggest using more water. Thank you so much. I completely understand your frustration. If I'm more air and fire, I'm probably going to use more earth. Thank you so much. I completely understand your frustration. There are nuances here. This is not a one size fits all.
Sure.
So that's why I want to bring up both, but you are going to use the more level versions of that. Notice that I said you're also going to say thank you so much. This is more, yes, we're talking about the voice today. Yes, that's the brand that I've gone with. And we're talking about leadership training. How do you communicate in a way that people listen to you? And one of which is saying thank you. Thank you so
Hmm.
much, because everybody just wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard and seen and valued. And so if you can show somebody, hey, I hear you. Yes. And this is what's happening, and do it in a way where you're delivering bad news in a way that people can actually receive it. Once again, own your breath, own the room, own your nervous system, and the person in front of you is going to match it. First person to get triggered loses.
Wow. You're good. Anybody have tell you that? This is
Yeah.
good stuff. We're going deep. I didn't expect this. I didn't know what to expect. Voice expert. Wow. Okay. Now I'm starting to think of my voice and all that I have to learn. From a business perspective, who in the public eye makes the best use of their voice?
We could talk about this in a lot of ways, Tim. I mean, right now, politicians are so fascinating, right? Because I mean, there's this video. It doesn't matter this is not about who I'm voting for. I'm not going
Sure,
to
I get
give
it.
that away. But I find what's happening with Kamala really fascinating, because there's people coming after her for her code switching, and that's been done by politicians for generations. Like
Yeah.
that's not new. And
Right.
and she does it really well too. I mean, I used to show a video of Obama doing the same thing. And I was like, look at him go. Here he's super Southern. Here he's in this world. Here he's in that world. It's being able to match the voice and the tonality, because if you sound like the audience that you're in front of, they'll trust you. They'll go, oh my gosh, they're just like us.
Hmm.
They're just like us. So I think that that's really fascinating to watch. Don't get mad at it, y'all. It's a strategy. Do it yourself rather than get mad at it. Step up, do better. I think it's cool. I
So,
think
all
it's
right.
pretty
So
cool.
politicians obviously get it. And you said
Yeah, well,
it's coding? They're changing the codes?
so code switching is a term, and I'll look this up. So if you're hearing this and I get it wrong, I apologize. I'll do better next time. But code switching is a term used by the Black community when Black people have had to change the way they sound to make white people feel more comfortable.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
so that's
Interesting.
a language pattern that going from sounding, sounding like a probably less educated Black community into sounding like what white people would think education sounds like. And I'll be really clear, and I hope I said that in a way that feels good to everybody. If not,
Yeah.
we're all just doing our best here. And I started to pick up that word because I realized that I do that really well. That I'm really good at going into different environments and sounding like the people that I'm in. And I could chameleon myself. And I was like, is that just because I'm an actress and I learned how to do that? Or is that because I have a really high emotional intelligence? And I think it's a little bit of all of it. And
Hmm.
so I started to recognize what I was doing, and then I put a science to it. Okay, what am I doing and how can I teach this?
So let's talk about the teaching part. I teased early in our interview. Stay tuned. Listen to the whole interview, because Sammy's going to share her 3 best tips, techniques, strategies. So let me give you a scenario. Let's pick on lawyers. You have one who comes to you who's boring, monotone. What are those techniques, strategies that anybody listening can take away with them today?
First step is the 4 stages of transformation. 1, awareness, becoming aware of what monotone is, which
Mm.
in my opinion, monotone doesn't really exist. It's monomelody. It's rare that I hear somebody who's talking on one tone, one pitch over and over and over again. Typically, it's that they're doing the same thing over and over, and that's what it is. So it's the same melody. So first,
Oh,
I wanted to clear that up.
okay.
Secondly, so step 1, awareness. Step 2, play. We're gonna get weird. We're gonna get weird with our voice, which is gonna give us more freedom to try new things, more freedom to be fully expressed, more freedom to use all parts of our voice and let all parts of ourselves be seen and heard and valued. And then finally, after freedom, that's when you'll have control. That's when you'll be able to go oh, this is what I the sound and the effect that I want to have. So this is what I'm going to do with my mouth and my nose and my breath and my tongue and all the things. But first we got to go through awareness, play, and freedom. So that's step 1. Be aware. Record yourself. Listen to yourself. What's your melody? If you play
Mm.
any kind of piano, look at the melody. Ask other people, what kind of melody does this sound like? And then once we know what the melody is, then this is where my method of musical tonality happens. Then we're going to sing, baby. We're gonna sing. What you gonna say? Yeah, 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 yeah. Seriously, everybody sings. I have all my attorneys sing. I have all my clients sing. It can be really scary for people at first, especially introverts when they
Oh yeah.
start singing because it's big. It's all of a sudden your energy is really big. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've never shown so much of myself before. So we try to do this calmly, and that's where humming comes in. So we'll use humming in order to just find more range in your voice. Play, right? The singing part is the most important. That's musical tonality. The trick is the reason why I'm so engaging and the reason why you are all loving listening to my voice right now is because I am slightly singing everything I do. Because singing and speaking. I'll ask you this, my friend, please, please. I would love to know, Tim, what is the difference between singing and speaking?
Speed.
Oh, great answer. Are you
I.
sure?
It's faster.
Yeah. Is
Is that
it?
right? I don't know.
I don't know. We have what is the middle part of Bohemian Rhapsody? I'm like, that's pretty fast. So is it speed? I asked this question because a lot of people don't know what that answer is. I have
Yeah.
my answer. My answer is energy. It's just the energy behind it.
Huh.
It's the kinetic energy behind it. That's the only answer I've currently been able to get to. But in musical theater school, the classical musical theater training that I have, I've learned speech level singing. So in order to sing those big things, we actually speak it all. And so I asked myself when I started doing public speaking coaching and guiding people in this way, what would happen if we do the opposite? What would happen if I start guiding everybody to sing what they're going to speak? And it works. So I'm able to take people who are monotone or monomelody, as I like to call it, and
Hmm.
show them a new melody by singing it and then speaking it again. And this allows them to have more charisma in their voice, more melody in their voice, a better pace, more pitch, or more control over their pitch,
Right.
and altogether a more musical tonality.
So that's how you fix the monotone, monomelody person.
Yep. Singing.
Wow. All right. So now I'm thinking about, because we've mentioned platform. What's one of the biggest, most consistent mistakes people make on the platform?
What platform? I apologize. Which platform are
Like
we talking
if you're
about?
doing a keynote
Oh,
speech.
and speaking.
Sorry, yeah.
What's the most consistent mistake people make?
Yeah.
Mm, everyone's different. It depends on how experienced you are.
Mm-hmm.
What I see pretty often, and I'll say it again, I'll say it over and over and over again because it's true, people lose control of their breath and then they lose control of the room.
Hmm.
They lose control of their breath. As soon as you stop breathing, as soon as you get nervous and you stop grounding yourself, people lean away. It is your job when you are on stage as a keynote speaker, it is your job to be in control of the audience, to say, I've got you. I'm going to take care of you this entire time. I'm going to make sure that you feel good and that you go on an emotional roller coaster, but you come back to homeostasis. That's my job. And to own that audience, to own that energy, we got to own our breath first.
Wow. I think you can change the world. Whoever told you you can't, don't listen to him. We'll talk about that off air.
I'll send him this video after. He'll love it. He'll love it.
I didn't know the biggest nerve in the body, the vagus nerve, is controlled by voice. And wow, this is, you're blowing my mind here today. Wow.
Awesome.
I got a lot of work to do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, seriously. We could certainly keep going. People want to learn more about you, follow you, reach out for help. How do they connect?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, you can go to my website, voiceexperts.com. Right now, I have launched my Voice of Authority audio course where you are going to have me in your ears, in your car, or whether you want to do it in the shower, to help you master these techniques from the comfort of your own home in a self-paced audio course. And I've already set this up for you, Tim. If you use the promo code Profit Express, then all of your listeners are going to get a discount.
Look at you. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, as you and I talked a few weeks ago when we tried to book the interview, and you talked about, how so much of your approach is music-based and singing. And I have to admit, I was skeptical. I was a little bit nervous because, as I told you, when I was 12 years old, I was kicked out of the choir at my grammar school. So I'm scarred by that. So I don't know if I could, hum. I'm on board. Singing, that would take a lot.
Start by humming, whatever feels safe. Whatever feels safe.
Well, early, before we started recording, you got me humming, and it felt good. I wasn't doing that throat clearing thing. Wow, I gotta eliminate that. It's been a great chat, great conversation. Thank you so much for being on board today and for your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. It's been a joy.
You got it. And this has been today's guest, the voice expert, Sammi Sadicario. Follow her. I did, I do, I will. It's that Profit Express discount. Take her up on it. And if you like what you hear, if you're a fan, don't forget thumbs up, like, and follow. Until next time, this is the Profit Express.